40 defects discovered on Sydney Harbour ferries. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.Heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee because I want to have a look at this article discussing, defects on Sydney Harbour ferries. Often we'll discuss construction issues and construction defects, so I thought it'd be good to change it up and, look at vehicle defects. Now you've got to understand these are very complex machines that are, in some ways, they've got to be run in, and defects are just part of the process. Hopefully they will be able to be issued and just massaged out. Nothing is perfect. Don't kid yourself, guys. It's just, are the defects so minor that you can deal with it? So let's have a look. Written by Tom Raab. So Sydney Harbour's new river-class ferry fleet was riddled with more than 40 defects after the vessels arrived in New South Wales from Indonesia. The government confirmed 43 defects were identified across the 10 vessels, which are undergoing substantial rectification work to their cabins so they can operate after sunset. As part of the acceptance process for the river-class fleet, 43 defects were raised across the 10 vessels. That's not too bad. The government said in answers to supplementary budget estimate questions provided to New South Wales Parliament. The problem-plagued vessels cannot pass under certain bridges on the Parramatta River if passengers are seated on the top deck. While asbestos was... these are pretty major bloody defects. While asbestos was found in the ferries before, the government also confirmed they could not operate in the dark due to cabin reflection issues. Oh boy. Yeah, these are not minor defects. Problems with their engine and gearbox caused them to stall when put into reverse during emergency stops in extreme conditions. What type of company are we buying these things from? Don't we have good ship manufacturing down in Tasmania? Why? I guess maybe they didn't win the tender, guys. Asked to outline the rest of the 43 defects, a spokeswoman for the private ferry operator Transdev said the majority of the 10 river-class vessels were already operating in daytime services, with the fleet expected to be in full service by mid-2022. I mean, these are issues, they may sound a bit bad. Sure, there's a bit of asbestos in them. You don't know where that was found. And if you leave it alone, it may not be an issue. But it may not meet the performance requirements that they set in the tender or the briefing documents. So, they've got to massage these things out. But they are operating during the day. So hopefully this will be a good story in the end. The spokeswoman said all the defects had either been closed out or fixed. The first river-class ferry entered service in October 2021, more than a year later than scheduled. Repair work is being carried out on each of the vessels to improve the reflection issues. New South Wales opposition leader Chris Minnis said revelations of the defects underscore why the state government must locally procure transport stock in the future. You reckon, guys? Because these type of defects can happen just as easily for Australian manufacturing. This is a bit of a false narrative the opposition leader is putting here. People are assuming that stuff made in Australia is going to be better. It isn't, okay? Not all the time. That's really such a level of arrogance that so many of us still have that I think is unfounded. It honestly is unfounded. The quality of product coming from overseas is pretty bloody good, honestly, most of the time. Think about how much stuff you use made in Taiwan, made in China, made in Japan, made in Vietnam that you use every day. Usually, it's crap if you buy the cheap, rubbishy stuff. If you buy the good stuff, can't complain. New South Wales taxpayers paid good money to import defective ferries while missing out on the hundreds of jobs that could have been created here, he said. Well, see, this is the thing. It may sound right, hundreds of jobs created here. But think about it, if the cost of it here was significantly higher, so you have to vacuum money out of other people, maybe with states love their stamp duty and land taxes, so they're reducing your quality of life on one hand, paying more for a product than they otherwise would have, to create jobs that will be reduced anyway because your quality of life is reduced because they vacuum more money out of you. It's a vicious cycle. I can understand the rhetoric here. I can understand why people want jobs in Australia, want it to go to local people. But you've got to understand where the money comes from government. It is all taken from us. And I don't believe anyone who says they enjoy paying taxes. That is utter bullshit. Okay? It is bullshit. No one enjoys paying taxes. If you enjoy paying taxes, it means your boss transfers the money for you and you never even see it. The only notion you have of taxes is when you get a tax return because they stole too much of your money. It's a different world when you actually have to, when you got a nice big fat chunk of money sitting in your bank account, and you get a letter from the ATO, GST is due, okay, and so you got to send it. It hurts, guys. It hurts. You get a break out in a cold sweat when you type in that number into your bank account. Oh, boy. So that's the question. Would you rather have a greater financial burden on the citizens of the state with the prospect of potentially some additional jobs and the argument that there's less defects, though I don't think that's legit, or have less of a financial burden on the state? There's the question. The failure on the New South Wales government's overseas built transport projects just keep coming. The government also confirmed in Parliament that the new Emerald-class ferries, which are replacing the freshwater vessels on the Manly route, would never be able to be retrofitted with low-emission battery technology. Who cares? I mean, it's a boat, okay? The problem with the low-emission battery technology, guys, that means you've got to drag the batteries in the boat. It's going to be less efficient as well, moving the things around. You know what's I tell you what you could do. Just put sails on the bloody things. There you go. There's low emission. Put a sail on it. Transport for New South Wales understands that the intensity of high-speed Emerald-class operation could not be supported by a battery electric system, the government said. In announcing Sydney's train network's transition to zero emissions last year, what bullshit that is, the former Transport Minister, Andrew Constance, also revealed a plan to retrofit some of the harbour's existing ferries with battery technology within 5 years. However, the Transdev spokeswoman said the design of the river-class ferries meant they could be converted in the future. The vessel's design supports the potential implementation of a battery electric system in future, the spokeswoman said. That is going to be such... If they do that, I'll make a prediction here. That is going to be such a disaster. Okay? It's just going to be such a disaster. I know people love battery techs and it has its place. I'm really becoming a convert to the little lithium battery power tools. So much, you don't need to dick around with mixing the 4-stroke, none of that stuff. Just plug it in. It's lighter. The kids can use the tools, particularly when they're mowing the lawn. It's just so easy. I think it's great. But it's not the be-all, end-all. The cost of leasing the new ferries is part of a $1.3 billion contract awarded to a French company, Transdev, in February 2019. That includes the cost of operating Sydney ferries for the next 9 years. So this is from the Sydney Morning Herald. Let's have a talk about this, guys. Let's have a little talk about this one. Now, there are two things to discuss here, two issues that are being raised. One is foreign procurement of vehicles and defects, and that's being cast on a light that somehow their quality is less than what we could have procured here in Australia. And it was probably done for financial decisions. They probably won the tender, hopefully fair and square, and could provide a more cost-effective solution. Now, does that mean we have more defects than procured here in Australia? My instincts tell me no. I don't think it does, but we'll have to see. Politically, I can understand where they're coming from. But then there's the other argument about going environmentally carbon neutral, completely ignoring the embodied energy and lifespan of the batteries that are being used, but rather than essentially you're burning fossil fuels in another part away from your transportation system, transporting it via electricity and storing it in batteries rather than just efficiently burning it on site as you need the power. Remember, you've got that power loss too, transporting it all around, even if it is renewable. But I want to talk about, just draw your attention to this tweet here that I think is really important by Willis Essenbach. A fun EV fact. To match the 2,000 cars that a typical filling station, petrol station, can service in 12 hours, an EV charging station requires 650 kilowatt chargers at an estimated cost of $24 million and a supply of 30 megawatts of power from the grid for each filling station in America. So for each petrol station, you need $24 million worth of chargers and then 30 megawatts of power from the grids to meet the same number of capacity and flow-through rate as a real petrol station. So just keep that in mind when you see all of this stuff, guys. So, I mean, there we go. Opposition leader trying to score some points. Sure, there are some defects there, but what would you rather? Defects that are Australian-made or defects that are foreign-made and less government spending? Or would you rather they just auction off the whole routes and privatize the transportation network? I'd love to see that, if that could happen here in Australia. What do you reckon? Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And I want to draw your attention to this video here, the one I did yesterday, just discussing the Chinese economy, how it hasn't crashed, everyone. All the doomers, all the fear, it was all collapsing, coming down. Well, it hasn't last year. And iron ore is going strong. We'll have to see. Take care. See you next time.